the Razer Deathadder V4. This is a mouse that promises to be an even better version of an already legendary existing shape. But does it deliver on that promise? Now first things first is obviously the feel. The Deathadder V4 is a small to medium sized ergonomic mouse that definitely leans more towards the medium side. The shape is essentially the same beloved design from the Deathadder V3 Pro, but with some few key differences. It's a shape that for me personally is absolutely perfect for relaxed claw grip or even pincer claw. If you're using a different grip style, this might not be the mouse for you. Now to expand more on the actual feel of the mouse, Razer has also slightly improved the coating. It does feel fine in hand, and while you can get away with not using grip tape, I would still recommend it for that extra bit of security during more intense moments. And an interesting fact that I found out is the shell is made up of 90% recycled materials. This is honestly so impressive, especially because it doesn't feel like a cheap or flimsy mouse in the slightest. The build quality is honestly so top notch. Now speaking of the quality, let's talk about the weight. The V4 weighs in at a feather light 57 grams, which is a very nice 6 gram reduction from the V3 Pro's 63 grams. Now in a market where every gram counts, this is such a welcome change. Now moving on from the feel of the mouse, let's get into the buttons, and this is where things get a bit more complicated. The main M1 and M2 clicks use Razer's new Gen 4 optical switches. Now on paper they should be great, but in practice they sound extremely hollow and pingy, almost making it feel a bit cheap. In the month or so that I've been using it, the clicks on my unit have definitely gotten more dead in both feel and sound. There's also a noticeable amount of pre-travel and post-travel on the main clicks, which I think is more of an issue with the implementation than the switches themselves. Honestly, I do still prefer the feel of mechanical switches like TTCs or even Armron opticals. However, the side buttons are a way different story. These have a massive improvement. They're quite a bit further apart, so you're less likely to accidentally actuate them. The switches themselves are extremely solid, tactile, and snappy. They have a very nice bodied feel, and there's virtually no pre or post travel. You get an incredibly consistent feel across wherever you actuate them. Now, the scroll wheel is also less than okay. The encoder itself is fine, a bit clunky and loose, but it does the job. But the middle mouse button, which is a micro switch, is absolutely awesome. Or well, it was. It was extremely light and tactile, but the problem is my middle mouse button has become complete mush. It's giving me random actuations while scrolling, and I've had to disable it in the software, which is a major bummer. Now on a more positive note, we have to talk about the dongle. This is extremely heavy and feels very well made. The best part, it does have a more subtle LED indicator for both connection strength, battery life, and polling rate. It's a huge step up from the previous dongles and a much more elegant solution than the Pulsar Brick, for example, which is just in your face the whole time. Now as for the performance, this is where the Deathadder V4 absolutely shines. It uses their new Focus Pro Gen 2 sensor, which, let's be honest, it's quite a bit overkill. The insane 45,000 DPI is, obviously pure marketing bullshit, but the real benefit is the battery life. Razer claims up to 150 hours on 1 kHz polling rate, and all I can tell you is this is something you can actually feel and experience. I've only had to charge this mouse maybe twice since I've had it, which is absolutely incredible. The performance is flawless, it's smooth, and it just works. Now for the more extras side of things, the packaging is very nice looking. But I'm not a fan of Razer reverting from their old simple brown cardboard box and paper sleeve. It was just a better, more eco-friendly approach in my opinion. And the skates. Yes, these are 100% grade PTFE, but I just don't like them. They get muddy pretty quickly and make the glide feel inconsistent, which can really affect your gameplay. So what is the final verdict? The Deathadder V4 is an awesome mouse. In the month that I've had it, I've used it comfortably for both general use and gaming. It's smooth, the shape is perfect for my grip style, and the performance is insane. Okay, so I'm going to interject myself real quick. Obviously, I'm praising this mouse pretty highly. That was my initial experience. I've probably gone into maybe a month and a half of using the Deathadder V4, and it's been a bit disappointing, to be honest. Yes, most of the stuff that I've talked about prior to this has been insanely good. The performance, the battery life, just the shape, everything feels decently sturdy. but there has been more underlying issues that I've picked up. After obviously removing the mouse gates and getting a bit deeper into the mouse, because I was like, hey, why do my clicks feel a bit deader? Let me just see if I can figure something out. Turns out the inside of the mouse does use more of a G Pro X style structural support system. So a very big bracing piece that holds a different PCB for the clicks and also the scroll wheel. And then that's completely separate from the main PCB. Now, that isn't supposed to really have issues in its own, but I've seen quite a few breaks in the actual support system, like completely shattered through. No like hairline fractures or anything, just a clean break. And that's caused quite a bit of creaking. And even if I do shake the mouse, you can hear some looseness, which is probably due to the scroll wheel. Also, on the topic of the scroll wheel, this is probably the worst part of it. My issue with the scroll wheel has obviously been mentioned before, which is it just randomly actuates the middle mouse button just on scrolling it. So upon further inspection, I obviously saw that the system that they use for the main scroll wheel is quite a bit different. It uses a small plunger system with a spring to rebound it back into its original position, just to, I'm assuming, compensate for, sagging issues or anything just underlying in the future. That is complete bullshit. My spring failed in the first week and a half, and ever since then I've had to deactivate the middle mouse button, which is obviously causing the random actuations. So if I'm literally just scrolling it, you can hear the switch activate, which is an absolute bummer. Besides that though, the weight, that's been perfectly fine. Weight balance has been pretty good, but also I feel they could have changed a couple things to obviously bring it down to what the market standard is. That's more of a nitpick more than anything else. But overall, the mouse is good, but I do feel it's also extremely disappointing. It's $170. You're getting a decent bit with it, but also the main issue is the quality. And you obviously don't want to have a mouse that just completely shits itself after maybe 2 weeks of use. So to me personally, I feel in the current state that the Deathadder V4 is now, there would be better options. Something that's more, obviously more suited to your taste, which could be lighter, it could be better balanced, it could have a better coating, because it's mediocre, but it does get the job done. But besides that though, it's probably not a mouse I feel in its current state that I can recommend, considering all the underlying issues. But besides that, decent. For me, I still prefer the Lamzu Paro. It's lighter, cheaper, and it might not have the same level of overkill performance or battery life. To me, it does provide a better overall experience. The Deathadder V4 is a fantastic mouse, but you have to decide if the incredible performance and features are worth the premium price tag, especially when there are greater options out there.